Okay, this is the lecture on data analysis, part 2. Now, we in the last segment, we went over how to look at a specific variable that you're interested in analyzing and making sense out of. And the next thing that we want to do is we want to look at two variables and see if they look like they're connected with each other or not. And so we can use this field, this tab here where it says tables, we can use this here to look at what's called a cross-tabulation table, or crosstab is shortened, to see if two variables, two questions are connected to each other. So let's say, for example, let's use an example that I always like to, if I can, fall back on criminological examples. And I happen to know that not only does this general social survey ask about gender, whether you're male or female, to just pick one variable, I know also that they ask in some years if you've ever been arrested for a crime, ever been picked up by the police, charged with something. And so I just happen to know to shorten the time, to save us time, instead of looking and searching for the question. You see here, there's a search button, and we could do a search if we were to say, well, I want to know if anybody's ever been arrested. And so if you were to put in arrest as a key search term and see if there's questions in there about being arrested, I just happen to know about this beforehand, but I don't think I'm going to make you guys do searches unless you want to, just because sometimes it can be time consuming and a little frustrating to find questions that you may be interested in when you don't really know if they've ever been asked before or not. So I'm going to make that easier for you by just kind of telling you about variables that you can use. So in this case, we did find typing this keyword arrest that they did. It looks like they have asked a question about that. Here, the name of the variable, they always give the question a variable name just to shorten it. They call it arrest. And you can see that the question is something about, have you ever been picked up or charged by the police? Here we can do the same thing that we did over here, where we with the view button, we could say, okay, well, if you can look at this and you get the same sort of thing. So here you get the exact wording of the question: were you ever picked up, charged by the police for any reason, whether or not you were guilty? And so if you said yes, I've been arrested before, then they assign you a 1. They give you a 1 because they have to just give you an arbitrary number because the computer needs numbers, not words. And the numbers are just going to be arbitrary with yes or no, because there's not really some number that goes with yes logically and a number that goes with no. So they just assign a typical thing that people will do is they'll assign a yes a 1. And so in the computer, it'll be 1 next to your name if you said, yes, I've been arrested before. And you'll get a 2 if you say, no, I've never been arrested before. If you refuse to answer, then they'll give you a 3. And you can see that that there were 3 people in this sample who refused to say whether they've been arrested or not. And then you can see there's a whole bunch, over 50,000, who get a 0, which means they were never asked this question. IAP is sort of like inappropriate. They didn't ever get, the many years they didn't ask if you ever been arrested. And so most of the people were never asked that. And so they get a 0, meaning, hey, this isn't for, it's one of these missing values we talked about last time. 0 means you didn't get asked the question. 8% you get an 8 if you say that you don't know whether you got arrested or not, DK standing for don't know. And you get a 9 if for some reason something went wrong and you didn't get the information from the person that you're asking questions about. And you can see there's 223 people that you just didn't get information on them. Something went wrong. Those again. So in this case, 8, 0, and 9 are your missing values. They're not valid. Your valid values are 1, 2, or 3. Well, actually, 3's a missing value too, because that doesn't tell you anything. They refuse to say. So it's really only 1 or 2. That's our valid data. That's valid values. Okay, so I just did the same thing we did last time with age or looking at Hispanic, and that is to click on that view button to see, how many people say yes, how many people say no. We can see that 12.6% of people have ever been arrested at least one time. 87.4% of people have never been arrested. And then there's your total numbers there, which you can see again that it's more useful with this example to focus on the percentages than to focus on the total numbers in each category. So, rounding, about 13% of people have been arrested before. We know what the statistics look like for arrest now, but where we're headed with this is I want to see if there's any relationship between gender and arrest. Is it true? Is my hunch true that men get arrested more than women, according to not just my hunch or opinion, but according to the data from this huge nationally representative survey? So let's take a look at that. We need to go back to, this is the search page, right? Remember we clicked that search button. So we want to go back to the analysis page, or the front page up front where we started. And now we want to make a table that's going to look at the relationship between gender and being arrested. So the way we do that is, first of all, I like to take and click here and have this technical different levels here that you can choose. It's not an important thing, but what I like to do is I like to say I want all the people in this sample that I'm going to analyze to not be weighted, meaning that everybody is counted the same. Everybody gets a vote of one. Think of it like voting. Everybody gets a vote. There's technical stuff where you might want to give certain people a little bit more weight if there's not enough of them. If for some reason you weren't able to sample enough of some minority group or something, you may want to weight, meaning you give them a little bit more sort of a little bit more weight in the results to make up for the fact that there's not enough of them. But that's a technical thing. Don't worry about that. I don't want to get into statistics. Don't worry about that. So just indicate, when you do your own assignment, indicate that you want everybody counted the same, no weighting. Everybody's the same. So then what you want to do, if you're interested in looking at the relationship between gender and arrest, well, you've got to know what gender is called. I happen to know that the variable name for gender is sex, S-E-X. And you're going to want to put that variable, you're going to want to put it in this column field here, and you'll see how this works. You want to put that in the column field. The other variable that I'm interested in, that remember it's called arrest, we're going to put it in this field here. And it's as simple as that. Those are the two questions that you're interested in. You want to look at to see if this is going to help us figure out if men are more likely to be arrested than women. So we go ahead, it's just as simple as putting those two variable names in there. We go ahead and we hit this button that says run the table. Boom, we hit it, we run the table. And we get this. So here you see this is this cross-tabulation table that I was talking about before. And these are a little complicated to read, but bear with me and we'll walk through this. And I want you, when you do your own assignment, to pick the simplest variables that you can, the simplest questions, just to avoid confusion. You want to have a good experience with the first time that you try this. So I encourage you, don't pick questions that are more complicated. Like, for example, that age one that I showed you in the last segment. Don't pick age, because look at how many different categories they had. They had 18 all the way up to 90. And if this, just imagine age being in a table here, it would be huge. You don't want a huge table. You want a little simple one that you can read and understand better. So you don't want to pick age, okay? I'll give you some choices that'll help you to keep things simple. And that's why I chose sex, is because there's only two categories, male and female. So the way that you read this is, you see that underneath this variable of sex, people either answered that they were male or that they were female. And if you look down at the bottom, see here's male. If you look at that bottom of this column down at the bottom here, you're going to see that there were 5,481 males that are in this sample. There's 680 6,861 females in the sample, so there's more females than males. When you add those two up, the males and the females, you get 12,342 individuals, total people. So down in this bottom right-hand corner is what you get, where you get the sample size. This is important because remember, sample size, the bigger the sample size, the more powerful your analysis, the more powerful your statistics. So one thing that you always want to pay attention to is, well, how many people are in my sample, in my analysis here? It's over 12,000, so you've got plenty. You got lots. Okay. Now, if we go back to male here, you can see that what this number refers to here, this 1161, that's how many men answered, yes, I've been arrested. If we look at the number here, this is the number of men who say, no, I've never been arrested, 4,318. See, so there's a lot more men who haven't been arrested than men who have been arrested. And if we focus on the percentages instead, it's even clearer, because this here is the percentage of men who, yes, have been arrested. This is the percentage of men who, no, have never been arrested. So the vast majority of men have never been arrested, almost 80%. Okay, it's the same thing with, if we look at females over here, there were 397 females who, yes, say they've been arrested. There were 6,463 females who, no, have never been arrested. And so you can see that there's many, many more women who've never been arrested than arrested. Only 397, yes, versus well over 6,000. Now, again, it's more useful to look at the percentages. This number here, 5.8% of females have, yes, been arrested. A small number compared to the 94.2% of females who, no, have never been arrested. And we'll just ignore those who don't give us an answer. There's not many of them anyway, only 3 total who didn't give us an answer. So to answer my question that motivated this whole analysis, do males, are they more likely to get arrested than females? Well, from this table, what's our answer? Our answer is clearly yes, that 21.2% of males have been arrested versus only 5.8% of females. So men are much more likely to have been arrested than females. I mean, this is like what? This is like over 3 times. 21.2 is over 3 times bigger than 5.8. So males are more than 3 times more likely, if you were to take 21.2 divided by 5.8. Males are more than 3 times more likely to be ever arrested than females. It's a big difference. That's what the main thing that we want to get from this cross tabulation table is. We want to find out, is one group more likely than the other group, right? And indeed, you see that that's the case. Let me back up one more and do one more example of this sort of thing. Let's stick with sex. Again, an easy one to pick. And instead of arrest, I happen to know that they ask a question, do you favor the legalization of marijuana? And the variable name for that, again, I would know this and you wouldn't because you haven't studied this. Just to save time, I know that it's called grass. So we do the same thing. We're going to look and see, do males and females differ in their attitudes towards marijuana legalization? So we go ahead and we click on this, do just the same thing we did before. You get a similar looking table, and you see here, it's the same sort of layout. The sex part of it is exactly the same, males and females. But over here, you've got 2 different answers on the marijuana question. Should it be legal? Yes, you think it should be legal. You get a 1. 2, if you say it shouldn't be legal. And so we see here that, let me focus on just a couple other things that I didn't last time, that you see here that this refers to males and females added together. So 31.7% of the entire sample, males and females lumped together, think it should be legalized. On the other hand, for the whole sample, males and females together, 68.3% say that marijuana should not be legal. So the majority here, 68.3% say no, it shouldn't be legalized. But that's for males and females lumped together. But again, our main interest is there a gender difference here? And so you do the same thing that we did with looking at arrest, and you say, okay, we know that 36.6% of males are in favor of legalization. And if we know that, looking at the table here, that 27.8% of females are in favor of legalization. Well, obviously 36.6 is a higher number than 27.8, noticeably higher number. So we would conclude from looking at this table, yeah, it looks like there's a tendency for more men favor legalization than women. Yeah, not a huge difference, but it's a noticeable difference. So men, again, to restate that, men are more likely than females, than women, to favor legalization of marijuana. That number is bigger. And so that's what I want, the kind of thing I want you to do in this assignment. So let's walk you through what I want you to do for the assignment. Basically what I've shown you, but with different variables, with different questions. I don't want you just to, copy me and do exactly the same variables that I looked at. But let me give you a couple of let me give you directions and also some guidance about what to do. So it's perfectly fine if you're interested in gender, use the gender one, but change the other variable that you're going to look at, right? And so for the other, I think what I'll do is maybe I can give you a couple of ideas, but if you're a little more adventurous, then you can come over here where these folders are and hunt around till you find something you're interested in. There's just a million questions, and you could hunt around and find one that you're interested in. It doesn't have to be what I'm interested in. But if you want, I want you to also be able to take the easier road. If you just want to get this assignment done as efficiently as possible, then what you can do is, let me give you a couple of different ideas for things that you could look at. And it's actually, if you have a pen there or a pencil, it's actually good to write down these variable names, because it saves you time trying to look these things up and trying to find them. So if you're interested in gender, then you know that the variable name is sex. If you like the marijuana legalization question, you want to analyze that one, but just not with sex, with something else, just remember that that's called grass. The one if you're interested in arrest, is that you could use arrest, but again, don't copy what I do, exactly what I do. Don't do sex, you want to do something else. So for the variables that will go in the column field, let me give you just a few choices to make it easy for you. Sex is one that you can do. Don't do age, because that is a huge category, right? That's going to really complicate your analysis, and you want to keep it simple. So what you want to do is, let me give you a couple other ones. Say you're interested in race. Race is called race. So you could use that one. That's only 3 categories: black, white, and other. And so that's nice and simple. 3 categories is simple, so you could do that one really easy. So I'm giving you all these variables that you should put in a column first, because it'll help you interpret it more easily. Another column variable that you could put in there could be degree, because degree is what's the highest degree that you have achieved. That's a good one, because it's just several categories. It's not too hard to figure out. So degree is one that you could do. You could do, if you wanted to, I'm trying to think other ones that are not too complicated. You could do marital status if you wanted to. That one's not too complicated. So that one, marital, is, are you single? Are you married? Are you divorced? Are you separated, widowed? That kind of thing. So marital status, if you're interested in that one, you could look at that one. Another one that's also not too complicated, I think you could handle, would be religion. So that's relig, R-I-L-I-G. So you could do that one if you're interested in that one. Let's see, what else would be, I'm trying to, there's lots of them in there, but some of them are a little too complicated. We want to keep them simple. It's the simplest, of course, cases if you can just get, two categories, but there's not too many of them that are these demographic background characteristics. There's not too many of them that are that simple. You could also do, let me see, you see the Hispanic one is a good one, but it's too complicated because you saw that there's all these different countries where people come from. And so I think you're really complicating things there. Another one that occurs to me is you could do born. That one is whether or not you were born in this country or you're an immigrant, right? So that's a good one to do as well. If you're interested in politics, you could do poll views, and that's a scale, a range from extremely conservative to extremely liberal. And so you could look and see, look at the connection between political views and something else. So all of those that I just rattled off are all variables that you want to put into the column. And so I'm trying to think if there's any other ones. I already mentioned religion, but you could do it if you're interested in church, religious sort of issues. You could do attend. That's how often you go to church, if ever. So that's another one that gets used a lot. Or if you, they're just whatever is coming to my mind. If you're interested in people's belief in God, that's one that you can handle too. That's not too complicated. God is another one you could do if you're interested in that. See, so that gives you a whole range of variables that go into the column, and so you could pick one. Any one of those is perfectly fine. And you can also look and find other ones if you want to do a search and go through these, just wander around, or do a search like with this search one and try to find something that you're interested in. Feel free. I'm just giving you suggestions to make your life easier if you want it the easiest sort of way of doing this. Okay, so I'm getting myself back in there. So that's just some ideas for the column. Now let me give you a couple of additional ones for the row. You could use arrest, like I talked about. You could use grass, like we talked about. You could also, let me give you a couple of other ones. This one here that just I see popping up is ab ini, and that's not a question about attitudes towards abortion. Do you favor? Are you pro-choice or pro-life? So if you're interested in that one, there's political questions. But again, I just want to give you a few things that you can choose from, and you can go off and search and explore if you feel so inclined. But if you're interested, that's one that you could consider. This ab ini is the abortion issue. If you like the criminal justice stuff, another one that you can look up is called CAPPUN, C-U-P-P-U-N, that should be. That's whether you're in favor of the death penalty or not. So that's one. That's a good one. I'm trying to think what else. Other ones that come to mind. If you're interested in guns, they've got a question in there. If you typed in pistol, that would ask people if they happen to own a pistol that they keep at home. That's just one that comes to mind. There's many, it's endless number of them, but it all sort of depends on what you're interested in. So if you, I'm giving you several ideas, but if that's not what you're interested in, then I would just suggest you kind of wander through and explore through some of those folders and see if you can find questions that you're interested in. But you need to find two. And again, what I would recommend is some sort of demographic variable to go in the column. And what I mean by demographic variables, like people's background, their sex, their gender, their race, whether their religion, what their religion is, what their degree is, you know, how far they've gone in school, what their marital status is, some of those sorts of things. And you pair that up with like an attitude question. You know, legalization of marijuana, abortion, capital punishment, or something else that you find. Like, it's good to find an attitude one for the row field, or a behavior one, like getting arrested. So it's behavior or attitudes is a good one to put in the row. So what I want you to do is, first of all, is you pick those, find those two variables that you're interested in. Then I want you to put them in this field first. Let's say that let's do the abortion one this time, just to give you an example. When you put it in this, type it into this field here, and you click view, what I want you to do, first of all, and you're going to write up just a paragraph or so and tell me what you found. You tell me the two questions that you are interested in analyzing. So again, it's your choice. You're going to tell me, you're going to say, okay, I picked gender and you know, sex and attitudes towards abortion. I want to see if men and women are different on their attitudes toward abortion. So step number one is you tell me what the two questions are that you chose, and then you tell me, okay, how many people are, step number one, how many people are in favor of abortion and how many people are against it? You can see that 41.4% of people say that a pregnant woman should be able to obtain an abortion, a legal abortion, for any reason. So read the question so you know exactly what they're asking. So this is abortion for any reason. 41.4% of people in the sample agree with that. 58.6% don't. So that's what the first thing you want to tell me is, you know, is how many people are one way or versus the other way on the first question that you're looking at, the first variable, but then you want to do it with the other one too. So let's say you were going to do, if you're doing sex and attitudes towards abortion, you'd also want to type in sex into that field, pull that up, and then tell me, okay, that in this sample, 44% of this sample is male, and 55.9% of this sample is female. So there's more females who participated in this sample than males. So that's the second thing you're going to want to tell me is you're going to want to tell me, you know, you want to talk about each one of these variables separately and tell me, well, which is the more common category? Which category do more people fall into? Is it the male category? Is it the female category? And you're going to tell me females are 55.9% of the sample. So I know kind of what the sample is made up of, right? And then so that's what your first couple of steps are, is to tell me what are the most common answers for the two variables that you're looking at. For the memory, back to the abortion one, is you want to say, well, you know, there's a lot of, you know, give me the exact numbers. There's a lot of people in favor of it, but there's a lot of people not in favor of it too. So after you've talked about each one of these variables individually, then you want to put them together as your final step. And so your final step is say, okay, I'm going to put this background variable in the column field. I'm going to put ab-any, that's the variable name for abortion, attitudes towards abortion. I'm going to run the table to get my cross-tabulation table, and I'm going to analyze it. And then you want to write up for me, the final thing you'll write up for in your little paragraph here that you'll email me as this for your assignment, is you'll say, you know, so we already talked about, you're going to say it's mostly females in the sample, more people are against abortion for any reason than in favor of it. You give me the numbers for those things. And then you say, okay, finally, I want to look at the relationship between gender and abortion for any reason. And you see that we compare the males with the females, and those numbers are close together, but we can see that slightly more males, 42.6% of males favor abortion for any reason. Yes, they're in favor of abortion for any reason, versus 40.5% of females who say yes, in favor of abortion for any reason. So the numbers are close. There's not much of a difference there, but guys slightly. So you want to tell me the guys are slightly more in favor of it than the females, but not a big difference. So you've answered that final ultimate question, which is what you're after with this little mini analysis, is there a gender difference? Yeah, there is here, but it's tiny. It's a small one. It's not a big, really huge gap between males and females. And then so you would type that up. What I'd like you to do as a final thing is just to include, if you can do like a screenshot of this table here, that you could email me along with your little paragraph that you write up in a Word document or Google Docs or whatever. So you write up your stuff, but you want to include also in your email to me, you want to include like a screenshot of this cross-tabulation table, just so I can look at it and see if you interpreted it correctly, if you did it correctly and interpreted it correctly. So you could like screenshot it and send me a picture of that. Or if you're someone who likes to use the snipping tool, that kind of a thing, and you wanted to like snip the table or something like that, and put that in your paper, paste that into your paper and email me that. However you want to do it, but I want you to include somehow your table so I can look at it and see if you interpret it correctly, and so you can get your full points for it. Because what I'm looking for is, that's how I'll grade it, will be, did you complete the assignment? Did you do the things that I asked? Tell me, about each individual question and how many people said yes, how many people said no, how many people were male or female, or whatever variables that you're looking at, how many were white, how many people were white, how many people were black, if you want to do race. And then you tell me whether there's a relationship between those two variables that you're interested in. In this case, you'd say, well, males are a little bit more in favor of abortion for any reason, but not much of a difference there. That's all you got to do. You email me that. You've completed the assignment. You get all your points. If I'm not expecting perfection, this is probably the first time you've ever done anything like this, I'll be generous in the points. You got plenty of time to work on this too, because I'm not requiring that you turn this in until all the way till the December the 4th, the end of the course. Friday, December the 4th is the last day of school. So as long as you email it to me by that day, it's on time, you'll get your points. If you want to do it quickly and get this thing done right now, since we're talking about it, you're listening to me and it's fresh in your mind, do it. Get this done, write up your little paragraph, and again, also send me a picture of the table so I can take a look at that, turn that in, get it done, get it out of the way. But you have all the way up till Friday, December 4th, for this to be turned in on time. And please, if you have any questions at all about this, email me, and I'll either email you back, or if it's something more complicated and where it's a bigger deal, then maybe I'll make a little mini video and put that up for the whole class to see if this turns out that it's confusing to people at all. Because it's not everybody's like a really a mathematical sort of person. So if you get tripped up, don't worry. We'll get you through it. Hopefully this is fairly clear. I tried to make it simple as a first run through this sort of thing. So get that assignment in, and again, hopefully you've paid attention to the things I've went through, because I'm going to come up with a little quiz to quiz you on, did you watch this video and pay attention to all of these different things. You definitely want to know any terms like frequency table or anything like that that happen to come up in the discussion. Speaking of terms, let me say one more that I didn't mention before, and that is these individual rectangles are called cells. And we brought this up earlier in the course, but just to remind you, whenever you have data that's in a little box like that, that box is called a cell. So that's something I could quiz you on that would be easy and straightforward. Anyway, if you have any questions, email me and we'll make sure and get you straightened out on those things.